Hello and welcome back on my channel today. In the series of how to tackle a new language, I've decided also to shoot this video in English. I did it in Spanish and I did it in German too, so I hope we can come to grips with the same issue in English as well. It's a question I get asked a lot. People ask me and approach me and say, how did you become a polyglot and how does it work really? How do you go about tackling a new language really? And I have to rack my brain because it's something that I haven't done in quite a while actually. I haven't really tackled a new language in quite a while, and I haven't had any reason to do so recently. I mean, to be quite honest, I somehow at one stage or another was considering learning Russian or Chinese, you know, on a visit in China, or coming back from Japan. I thought how cool it would be to be able to get by in Japanese, let alone being fluent, which is quite another piece of cake, of course. Or back from Scandinavia, Sweden, you'd think, well, I can understand most of what is written, or in Denmark too, but I can't understand people when they speak, and I'm sure it shouldn't be too difficult because when I read what is written, or even a very basic teach yourself book in either of these three Scandinavian languages, it should be quite easy to tackle them and to get maybe to some degree of fluency in any of these languages. So yes, it's a question that I've been faced to quite a few times, and I've got people approaching me online and also offline and asking me how I go about it. It's something that actually somehow seems to create a lot of curiosity, and I can understand that, of course. So in this video it will be all about how to kick off learning a new language and which tips and tricks will help you along the way. So the first one is I've prepared a few flashcards to make sure I don't forget any of what I've been meaning to tell you. The first thing, and that might seem like a bit of a weird recommendation, I would say before starting anything, I would embark on a bit of an introspection. What is this introspection will be all about? It will be about really ensuring that your motivation is up to scratch. The reason why you want to learn the language is a genuine one. It's not just some inspiration or some idea that you have on the spur of the moment, or some vibe that you're riding right at the moment when you have this idea, but it's something that will actually carry you through the whole process until you get to A2, B1 level, or even to full fluency. So believe me, it's very important to first of all step back a little bit from the whole process, maybe go within you, seclude yourself a little bit, and to really re-question the reasons why you want to tackle the language. So is it because you've just come back from a trip in Japan and you think it would be cool to speak a bit of Japanese? Same thing with Chinese, or you were on holiday in Italy and you found a charming Italian girl or Italian guy, if you are a woman, or just whichever the setup might be, and you think, well, I'd like to be able to speak their language. If you're just riding this vibe, this first moment emotion, let me tell you, it's like falling in love. It's not going to last forever. It's going to probably be very fleeting, and you'll find yourself back in your routine, back in your old habits, and guess what? Everything you've ever thought about learning a language will be completely forgotten. So in order for this not to happen, you have to carry out this introspection and ask yourself, what are the real reasons that will carry you through learning the language? What will be the process all about? And this is also, most importantly, these are the reasons you have to be able to fall back on when you go through a crisis. I'll get to that later on in this video, how to tackle a crisis, how to tackle a hardship, hard moments. So that's why ask yourself how motivated you are and how prepared you are to actually make the sacrifice over other things in your life to dedicate a bit of time to this language learning and accomplish the purpose or the goal you've set yourself. Now, talking about goal and purpose you've set yourself, that leads us to the next point, which is you need to have a goal. You need to have goals. You need to have an aim. So how do you describe this aim, and how can you actually enhance it? How can you make sure it's really clear and is going to carry through? The first thing is, of course, you have to make up your mind about one specific language. And here I'd like to be very emphatic about one thing. There is no such thing as learning 2 or 3 languages in parallel. I don't think it works. Even for very linguistically very gifted people, or for people who have a lot of experience, or even hyper talented people, extremely gifted people, I don't think that will work. Unless you only do that and you've got nothing else to do, which I doubt very much. Usually you have a complete life, you've got a full package, you've got a family, wife, husband, children, or whatever, you've got a full-time job, you've got maybe some other career purposes you're fulfilling, and you want to be able to relax as well. So all this language learning process has to be compatible with every single aspect of your life, which is why you want to choose one language, and you want to focus on this one language. It's one language at a time, and that's the way it should be. Then the second thing is you want to look at the level. What kind of level do you want to achieve? If you start from scratch and you've got no previous knowledge of the language, then you want to tackle an A1, A2 first, or even maybe reach out to B1, depending on the language you want to tackle and depending on how close or how exotic this language is compared to your mother tongue. So this target language has to be also taken into account. Then the other thing is also this sense of purpose that I quoted before, and the other thing is to have timeline. So you're not just simply learning the language on end and going to lessons or just pursuing learning the language for no purpose at all. This is also something that's not going to work. If you embark on that kind of adventure, you get weary, you get tired, and you will want to give up. And that's the last thing you want. So you really want to be consistent and stay tuned. And in order to be able to make sure that you stay tuned, you have to have a goal, a final goal. And the goal might be something like, let me just quote an example. It could be, we are now in February 2026. By year end, by end of 2026, I want to have achieved fluency in Italian up to A2 or B1 level. And that's my purpose. And in order to be able to make sure that it works, I will be checking on my progress every second, and I will be seeing I will be checking if I'm monitoring actually if I am following through. So that would be, for instance, a very consistent and very clear purpose. Next thing is methodology. So I would say the motivation fuels you. The introspection is going to fuel you, but now you need to have an engine that works, that actually gets you to where you want to be. And in order to be able to achieve this, it's not enough to be motivated, it's not enough to be organized and to have a purpose, because that's not going to get you anywhere. You also have to have a method. So the first method I would recommend for somebody who has no idea, because we're talking about beginners, people who have never spoken and have no idea about the language they're just about to tackle. Now, what you want to do is you want to get hold of, and here I'm very old-fashioned in that respect, you want to get hold of a book. Yes, you heard me right, a book. You're going to go down the street to your bookstore, to the section languages, and you're going to start shopping around. So you will grab books of your target language and you're going to open them physically. Yes, physically, not online. You want to have the books in your hand and you want to compare them, you want to check them out. So you're going to take these books, one after the other, even, smell them, sniff them, see if they appeal to you, how they're graphically designed, what do the lesson really entail. If you slip all the way back to the last lesson, you want to know what the last lesson will be about, what kind of level the next lesson will bring you to, what will you be able to say at the end of the book when you get there, and that might also motivate you. Choose the book that really goes along with your personal taste and what you set yourself as goals to learn the language, and that's what you want to pursue. So you take time and you really take like a 2 to 3 hour session in a big bookstore, and you enjoy doing the process. You can go with a friend and maybe has the same idea, maybe a different language or the same language, and you want to sort of back yourself or back each other up along the process. And it should be really fun, so that's what it should be all about. Teachers and online resources. I run the same video in Spanish and in German just before, and I realized I left something completely out of these 2 videos. I'd like to catch it up here. It's how do you deal with the idea of a teacher? Well, here's the thing. If from day one you go to school, the problem is nothing against teachers, nothing against schools. They can be extremely professional, extremely efficient. They can be very motivating too. So that could be also an avenue to explore. But the thing about teachers is the following thing. Implicitly, when you go to school and you enroll yourself, you enlist yourself in a language course, you will find yourself actually signing a contract whereby implicitly, even on a very unconscious level, you will expect the teacher to instill the language into your system, into your brain, against payment of the course fee. And that's not the way it works. Language has to be, is something that you need to learn by yourself, basically. You have to make a conscious decision to learn a language. And that's why going to school from day one might not be the best idea. It's good if you start for yourself and become autonomous in your learning process. Now, aside from the book you want to buy, you want to also have the corresponding audio resource, which is very important. So not only do you get, the written output, but you also get the oral output, which is just as important, because at the end of the day, you have to be able to understand people in the street. So that's the way it should work. 6 months down the road, after, let's say we're in February, so by August, you should be able to maybe expand a little bit your scope of learning, and you might want to rub elbow with real people. So you might want to, first of all, maybe contact a tandem. Now, here's what you have to keep in mind when it comes to a tandem. First of all, a tandem has to be designed just for the sole purpose of you learning your target language and nothing else. You're not going to take a tandem and work on a bidirectional way, for instance. While I'm getting taught Turkish, I answer in Japanese and it's all great fun, ha ha ha. No, it's not going to get you anywhere. A tandem is a one-way thing, it's just about one language, and your tandem is your reference person when it comes to learning this very language. Very important. Now you might think, where is the reciprocity? I mean, what is the tandem going to get in return while I'm getting all the input from the tandem? Well, believe me, you can maybe reward in some other way. You can invite the person to coffee, or you can hook up the person maybe with the next person that will get the person to teach your tandem to learn the language, their target language, because if they are on a tandem platform, odds are they want to learn the language themselves. And you might even organize triangular tandems whereby you only have this one or unidirectional teaching input, whereby you receive the teaching from your tandem, you give your teaching to another person from whom you get nothing in return, and this third person might be your tandem's tandem in terms of learning the language that your tandem wants to learn, for instance. Might be intricate to think about, but it might be worth a thought. The other thing is input. You need also to get written input. So what you might want to do after 6 months is, why don't you grab an A1, A2 easy reader? Here again, you might go down the street to a bookstore, or you might go to your city library. We've got a very good Stadtbibliothek where I live, German, and they have all sorts of teach yourself books, or even easy resources, easy readers in the most mainstream languages: English, German, Spanish, French, Italian, you name it, and it's great fun, and it really carries you across. Now, in terms of input, that's all part of this methodology that I'm trying to describe. Is you want to get an audio input, and here what you might want to do is tune in your radio or your TV set, or run some interesting video. It must be a topic that you like, and just let yourself get carried away by the flow of the language, even if you don't understand everything. It's not the purpose. It's not about understanding everything. You'll catch probably words or bits of sentences here and there, and that's enough. That's good enough for the purpose of learning the basis of the language. Here, the idea is to get used to tune in your whole hearing system to the sound and the rhythm of the language, and nothing more. You don't have to understand everything. And if you do it constantly, do it 1 or 2 hours a day, or even in the background, or even while you drive your car into work, and you tune in the radio, that's more than enough. So much about the methodology. Now, the challenge is, how do you deal with setbacks, and believe me, you're going to be faced with setbacks. It's going to happen. It's bound to happen. You'll start learning, and then day one might be great, and week one might be great, and you get somewhere, and you're all proud to flash your couple of sentences and things you've been able to understand in your target language, and then necessarily things will get more complex. Things will get more intricate, and you will hit upon this section of the book that you don't like very much. And guess what? On this very day, and that's the way it happens usually, you'll not be happy at work. You will get some bad news. You will have a maybe pull out a fight with your spouse, or your kids are giving you a hard time, or whatever happens, and you will not be in your best mood to just keep on tackling the language. Or maybe it's simply the language itself that irritates you. Everything else works, or it's just too tempting to go for a hike or to go biking. And you should also do these things. You should never forget, and you should never give up your activities that you like for the sake of learning languages. Otherwise, you'll end up hating your language process, your language learning. But it might not be the best day. So how do you deal with days like this? How do you deal with such hardships or difficult moments or down phases or setbacks, or whichever way we want to call them? My first recommendation is do step back a little bit from the learning process. If you're not getting ahead in a specific section of the book, maybe this section of this book is not just not designed for you right on the spur of the moment, and there is nothing wrong about taking a break maybe for one day. I wouldn't do for weeks on end, because otherwise you're compromising your learning process, and that's not what we want. But you might want to do it for just maybe one day, which is okay. Then the other thing is, while you're getting discouraged and dejected and downcast just for one section or one obstacle or something you're hitting upon in your book, you tend to forget how much has been achieved. So what might be worthwhile doing in a case like this is to maybe look back on what has been done so far. And believe me, even after a week or 2 weeks or a month, you probably have learned more than you think. You'll be able to understand a little bit of the language. You'll be able to pull up a couple of expressions to say hello, say goodbye, thank you. And that might also be very motivating indeed. So don't forget about these points. That's very important too. Look back on your successes. Don't look ahead about what is grim or what you're not achieving, but also look back on the bright side of life, what you've done so far, and that's very good. As I said, skipping the section on the spur of the moment might be the best strategy to be able to ensure a smooth learning or smooth continuation of your learning process. And while today might not be your best day, tomorrow will bring about a sunny day, perhaps. So look ahead and look forward to what is to come. Last point among my tips and tricks to learn the language is consistency. Now, consistency is an important point, because without discipline, without consistency, without being sticky about the learning process, you're not going to get anywhere. So my first recommendation is make short daily sessions. With emphasis on daily, it has to be regular. Learn every day, but do short sessions, not more than 15-20 minutes. First of all, because you want to also do other things in life than learning this very language. Otherwise, you'll end up hating your life and hating the language you're learning, and that will lead you right to ditching the language, which is the last thing you want. And also because your brain has a limited capacity to absorb information on the spur of the moment. So short sessions might be the right bet. What you definitely shouldn't do is the opposite of these short sessions and just postpone everything until the very weekend that lies ahead. So the 7-day, the Monday to Friday sessions, 5 sessions I haven't looked at, will be caught up on Saturday or even worse, Sunday. And that might be even Sunday night, because you also have a full weekend program. So guess what? On Sunday night, you have to cram into your head 7 lessons you haven't been looking at. And believe me, that's quite a job, and it's not going to work. And you're not going to have fun doing so. And you have the feeling you're more trying to comply with a duty than actually coming to grip with your learning process of language that gets you ahead. So no long terms over the weekend. Instead of that, a series of short terms during the week on a regular basis, on a daily basis, ideally speaking. Then, talking about consistency, Another very important point is to make sure that you exercise and you practice on a regular basis all four so-called macro-linguistic skills. So when we talk about the language, we're talking about input, output. Input is to be able to understand, which is oral skills, and to be able to talk, which is also oral skill. And then when we talk about the written skills, you have to be able to read, which is the input, or write, which is the output. And you have to make sure you exercise all four of these macro skills on a regular basis. Now, of course, you might say, my purpose is to learn Chinese or a bit of Japanese, and all I want to be able to do is to get by on an A1, maybe max A2 level. That's perfectly acceptable, and you might want to skip the whole complex writing system altogether. It's also purpose, it's also something you might be looking at. But usually, more often than not, if your idea is to strive for a B or even a C1 to C2 level, you want to look at something completely different. You want to have a full package, and you want to be able to also get yourself across in the remaining macro skills of the language, which imply writing and reading as well. And you want to also be able to grab a book, to grab a novel and make sense of it and have fun reading it, basically. So apart from these, that's my next step in this chapter regarding consistency. Apart from these occasional setbacks, and you will encounter them, so don't worry, it's perfectly normal. I would say as a rule of thumb, no day off. You study every single day that's possible. And then the other thing is, in terms of consistency, to ensure this consistency, try to find out the best time of the day that suits your learning process. Are you more like a morning person? I'm more of a morning person. I'm very efficient in the morning. I like to get up early in the morning, 6 o'clock usually, or even earlier. I fix my breakfast, I shower, I might work out a little bit, and then I go into work. And while I'm doing so, then I like to do a bit of reading in the train, for instance, and that's for me the perfect time to absorb new information. If I were to tackle a new language, that's the point of time during the day I would choose to be able to do so. Noon might also be a good thing. You're right at work between AM, PM, in the afternoon, you decide to take a break, you have lunch with your colleagues, and then you dedicate yourself to you assign yourself 10 or 15 or 20 minutes to do 1 or 2 lessons from your SML or from any book you've chosen from your bookstore. This book that carries you through the whole day, or during the whole process. And right, that's as far as consistency is concerned. So we've covered actually the basic aspect that I meant to talk about in this video, and maybe I'd like to wrap them all up. So first one is introspection. Just check out for your motivation. Make sure your motivation is consistent and is in line with what you set yourself as a goal. Talking about goals, make sure they are clear in terms of timelines, in terms of level, in terms of which language, and in terms of methodology. Next thing is methodology. Find the right material, be selective, and try to find a bit of diversity, and also don't forget to exercise all 4 macro skills that are attached to the language, and also make sure you have a strategy when dealing with setbacks, and believe me, they will come along. Last point, consistency. Be consistent, be disciplined about your learning process, and hey, I'll tell you what, most of all, enjoy it, because I had a ball learning 8 languages. Well, my mother tongue is, I didn't learn it, it was just instilled into my system. Some languages I started very early and I didn't think it was fun at all. I think English was one of them. I was actually crap at English when I was at school. When I decided to take my learning process in my hand and to become responsible for my learning process, I thought it became really great, and opportunities and avenues of getting to know people on an international level just opened up. It was absolutely great. And that's what I wish you, and I wish you also a great day. Bye-bye.